Shiv, thanks for joining me on Humans and Brands.
Thank you, Lauren. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I'm excited
exciting.
to talk to you.
Yeah, I'm excited
I want to
too.
talk to you a little bit. So, okay, we used to work together. You grew up sales side, kind of corporate, very corporate environment. Built your resume, built your learnings, your network, and then you made a pivot into starting your own company. So, tell me a little bit about how you started out, and then I want to talk about you being an entrepreneur.
Yeah, so I started my company in 2018. So I had been at AOL for about 10 years. That's where we worked together. Also at Criteo. We also worked together there. So I was at two big companies, to your point. And then in 2018, I took the leap. And I think, there's no, I guess, like right answer or like recipe of how you do it. It's like usually a confluence of things. It's a confluence of events, right? So first of all, I got laid off, which was like a big kick in the pants, right? And so there was like some intrinsic motivation there to I'm gonna get you, like I'm gonna take down the man, like I can do this myself. I don't need you. So there's the motivation element. There's the family element. Like my wife was very supportive. Financially, she was supportive. Like she said, hey, you can go try this and we'll be okay. So there's that, component. There's entrepreneurial itch. So I had this itch. Like I tried to start a company when I was 25.
Oh, wow.
Which horribly failed because I spent all my time trying to think about the name of the company as opposed to the actual company itself. And then I didn't make that mistake again. I picked the name in like 30 minutes for this one.
Great.
So it was like, okay, I'll focus on the important work. I had the entrepreneurial itch. Like my family is all entrepreneurs. My mom, my dad, my sister,
Really?
like everybody's an entrepreneur. So I've always seen that. They've always been role models for me. So I had that ingredient. So there's like all these ingredients that came together. And, I think that's how it usually goes. I think some people kind of do it through sheer will, but I think most people do it because it's happenstance and, a series of fortunate events and a confluence of things and ingredients that all kind of work together to allow you to take the leap.
Yeah, the path is the path, I guess.
Yeah.
Do you think that having that background in corporate helped you to like build the skill set you needed, and like is that something you'd recommend? Like if somebody were younger than you were asking you like, well, should I just start a company at 22 years old? Would you be like, no, you need to go do some learning first?
I'm going to say this again. I don't think there's a right answer. Everyone's got their own path. Clearly, the history is littered with founders and entrepreneurs that didn't do that, right? So everyone's got their own path. I think it depends on what kind of business you're starting. It depends on who you are and how you learn. Like I didn't perceive myself to be somebody that was like extremely confident or like, oh, I know I can do this. And corporate world kind of gave me that a little bit. I was like, oh, I can do this. I got this. Some people just have that intrinsically, right? So I needed that. Also, I started a business that deals very much with like big companies and enterprises. And there's a certain kind of like professionalism you learn by being in a corporate environment that allows you to do business with those types of companies.
Yeah, I think also allows you to understand how the inner workings of them.
Totally.
So it's like you're selling to the people you used to work for.
Totally.
So now you get like the conversations, you get what the CRO needs, what the CEO needs, like how the machine works.
Yeah, and on the flip side, like there are probably some drawbacks of being in that environment and then starting your own company, right? Because maybe you get caught up in too much process, or maybe you get caught up in too much like, corporate mumbo jumbo or whatever it is, all the things that are like not great about corporate America. And that could bring you down, or that could just become part of your fabric. And like, luckily those are the types of things I resented about working at big companies. So like when I went off and did my own thing, I was like, we're not going to do that, and that, so it was a good mix.
Interesting. So I kind of have a different opinion. I kind of feel like you got to start at a company because you need the fundamentals. You need the building blocks of like, I was dumb when I was in my early 20s. Like I didn't know, and they don't teach you this stuff in school. So like, I kind of feel like you need like somebody to give you training and to like tell you how to act in a meeting, and like how do you prepare notes, and how do you do, you kind of like have to learn those fundamentals and like core, I don't know, basics, like inner workings.
Yeah, and I think it's also like really core principles to your point, like the value of money and revenue. Like revenue is really important, and customer service is very important. A kid out of college is like, I don't know, I worked at Dairy Queen. Like, I don't care about customer service.
Right.
You know, and so when you get to a bigger kind of corporate environment, they kind of preach like the importance of treating your customers well and, you know, to take care of money and revenue, you know? So I think it's all the things you said.
Okay. So 2018, you're like, you get laid off from a job. You're like, I'm going to go start my own thing. Were you like, did it just go perfectly from 2018 on? Or was it like ups and downs?
There were definitely ups and downs. Obviously, everybody faces ups and downs. I will say I've been pretty fortunate, and it's been pretty good the whole time. You know, kind of like slowly but surely up and to the right.
Okay.
Which has been really nice. But like every year feels a little bit more tense and hard. Every year, like if you're growing, there's also more at stake. So it feels a little bit more stressful. Like in the first year, if I didn't, you know, get XYZ client or I didn't get this revenue, like it felt, I mean, maybe it's just hindsight and I'm saying about like my past self and it's not true, but like it feels much higher leverage now, you know, like we have employees, we have people to, you know, take care of and health insurance to pay and all those things, you know? So, I'd say we've been pretty fortunate and had a good run.
Good.
Yeah.
Have you ever had any like moments where you're like, and I only ask this because like I just started a company about 18 months ago and there's definitely moments still. And I think it takes a while. It takes like 3 years to build a company.
For
3 to 5 years, right?
100%.
My coach always reminds me of this. Like,
unless you
you're in the building part. You're in the building part, you know?
Unless you launch ChatGPT.
Well, yeah.
Then you have a company right away. But even that took like years before they launched it.
Yeah,
right? So,
everything takes time. That's the thing. Everything takes time, and it takes like. There's this book that I love that I bring up all the time called The Dip, and it's by Seth Godin, and it's the idea that like you're gonna start something and it's gonna be going okay, and then like there's gonna be a dip, and like every single thing that's worth anything, relationships, jobs, starting companies, whatever it might be, like is gonna go through a dip period, and that's where you like have to decide like, okay, am I gonna stick it out through this dip? Like, have you had any of those moments?
I've had some tough years. Actually, 2 years ago was a tough year where we took a dip and we had to let some people go, which was hard because I hadn't experienced that, and it was kind of up and to the right.
Yeah.
So yeah, short answer is yes, and like honestly, we might go through it again this year. I don't know. It could be around any corner, and so you have to like. I think the first time gave me a lot of experience into like how to deal with that, how to communicate it with your team, how to communicate it to customers, and how like one of the biggest things I've learned, and I'm still not great at it, but it's something I have learned is you cannot get too high or too low. You cannot get too high or too low. It feels like in every moment, if you like close a big deal, you're like super excited, or more so on the low end of that, like if you lose a client or if you churn or whatever, that feels really bad. It feels personal. It feels like you didn't do a good job. It feels like you're not capable. It hurts your self-esteem, all the things. And what you have to realize is that that's not going to get you through that moment, right? Like it's okay to take things a little personally, but you have to wake up the next day or maybe a few days, you know, from then and like be ready to kind of tackle the next thing.
Yeah. Do you have any tricks for like how you do that? Because I think sometimes you can get lost in the day to day and you can get lost in the highs and lows and like riding the waves. And sometimes like, for me, I have to look at it like on a 3-month basis and be like, okay, how are things going on the macro?
Sure. Yes.
You know, like how is there any tricks that you do to sort of like level set?
Well, one of my best tricks, it sounds stupid, and I'm like wired like a salesperson, and somebody told me this, like an early sales leader told me this. He's like, if your day is not going well, go sell something. And like it's amazing advice, right? Because if you like have a loss, you know, if you're only thinking about that loss and that's all you can focus on and there's nothing else to really occupy your time or give you energy or excitement, then you're going to just keep wallowing, right?
So good.
And so like that's what I do now. If I'm like, oh man, I'm really hurting about this, I'm just like, okay, wait, flip it. I have like 5 customers in my pipeline. I want to go close one of them right now.
That's
and then you
awesome.
forget about the one you lost.
Yeah,
you know?
of course. I think that's so smart. Okay, so I have a story about this that I heard from James Clear, who's the guy who wrote Atomic Habits.
Yep.
And he talks about this guy who was in financial services. He didn't know nearly as much as his peers. His like all the other guys in his company were equity analysts. They knew the market and they knew this and they knew everything inside and out. But his only thing that he did is he had two jars on his desk with paper clips. And he would make a sales call and he would drop paper clips. And like every day he would need to drop 5 paper clips into from one jar into the next. And he did that every day for like 2 years. And he ended up being the top salesperson of the entire company because like he just had this like visual representation of like, just keep plugging away and don't lose your focus on like, at the end of the day, you have to go sell stuff.
And like, listen, for different types of people, their kind of way to get back up could be different. But like revenue is a hell of a drug.
Yeah,
it's like it kind of it makes problems go away. And that's a way to kind of get through the lows.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. Have you learned any lessons that you, reflecting back in the last, I guess, 5 years? No, more than 5 years. 7 years. 8 years.
It's going to be 8 in February.
Years. Yeah. Like lessons that you now know that you wish you knew back then?
Yeah, there's a lot. There's the don't get too high, don't get too low type of lesson. And these are things that like people tell you before you start it, or like they're in books.
You have to
live it to know how to actually do it. It's just words on a piece of paper otherwise. So like I knew that, but like how to actually do that was something I learned, right? So don't get too high, don't get too low is definitely one big one. The other thing I'll say is like, this is probably my number one piece of advice for any entrepreneur. You are not building a business. You are not building a business. You are solving a problem. You're creating value. So if you can create value, the business follows, right? But the people, I see this over and over again, people that set out to make money are typically not the ones that are able to find product market fit, solve somebody's problem, those people are then willing to pay you to solve their problem, right? And it comes up over and over and over again. It's like, how do I monetize this? Oh, I did this thing, I gotta monetize it, And it's like, just solve problems, create value. That's how you should set out to build a business. And that's something that I'm like always laser focused on is like, okay, cool, we're gonna do this thing and it could be this new revenue stream, but are we actually solving a problem? Or are we just creating a thing for the sake of creating a thing and monetizing it, That's a big one.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's interesting. How do you think about, because if you use that lens on everything, then you would never do something like starting a podcast.
Well, I think, so I'll use our newsletter as an example. So when we started a newsletter, we didn't start the newsletter as a marketing channel. We started our newsletter to solve a problem that actually a customer came to us and told us about. They said, hey, your training is great. You guys teach us about all these concepts and industry technology and things like that. But like where you stand in the ecosystem and your purview makes me feel like I need also like the zeitgeist from you. I need the kind of like, what are the trends? Right. What's the news? Right. Like, can you guys train us on that? And then I was like, I guess, how would we do that? And so we built a newsletter.
Cool.
So we didn't build it to market or monetize. And then, the marketing became an ancillary thing.
Interesting.
But it's that's an example, and so even with the podcast that we've launched, the AI Edge podcast, like it's about like one thing I saw when we started kind of getting into AI training is that a lot of people love to listen as a form of learning, right? Podcasts are super popular right now. And a lot of people, if you ask them, why do you like listening to podcasts? It's because they learn, right? And we don't have a podcast. And as we get into the AI space, I did kind of like some canvassing for myself. I was like, because I like learning from podcasts. So I was like, is there a podcast I can learn about kind of AI in the marketing and advertising space? Yeah. There's nothing good.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well, if we want to meet certain learners where they are, which is the audio kind of medium, and we want to help people kind of stay up to what's happening in AI in our industry, like let's do that to solve a problem.
I like it. Interesting.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah, because I sometimes get pulled in directions, and I think other entrepreneurs or people who are thinking about starting businesses feel this is like you get pulled in a direction of like, sure, I guess I could do that, or I guess I could do that. But like to your point, it's like, well, first of all, how can you stay focused on like putting the paper clips into the jar? And secondly, how do you make sure that you're providing value and whatever you're creating is providing value to somebody?
100%. And the first thing you said reminds me, that's another thing I've learned is like, you should have laser focus, especially when you're small and just starting. Don't try to do everything for everyone. Like that's a big mistake people make. When you're an entrepreneur, you don't have a body of work. You don't have credibility. You don't have a company. You don't have any revenue. You don't have any customers, right? So how do you create credibility out of thin air? You don't do it by saying like, I do everything. I do what McKinsey does, for you. Or like I do what Google does. That is not how you do it. What you do is you pick a very, very narrow kind of like market or segment that is underserved, or there's a problem to solve, and you go hard at solving that problem for a very specific niche. And if you show up to a meeting saying like, I don't do everything Google does and what McKinsey does, but I solve this very specific problem in this very specific area, and nobody else focuses as much as I do, immediately you have credibility, right, to solve that problem for that customer.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah, so it's like focusing, and it's like micro focus, macro goals, I guess.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think you said it, like another way to get through the lows and the highs is zoom out as much as you can, right? It's like, okay, well, what do I want to achieve a year from now or 2 years from now? And this is just a blip, right? So how do I keep working towards that? I still have to do X, Y, and Z things, right? This may be a minor setback, but that's okay. You know, I'm still hopefully able to achieve what I'm trying to achieve, big picture.
Yeah. Cool. What advice would you give to your 22-year-old self?
22-year-old self. 22-year-old self was pretty dumb and probably having too much fun. I also think it's important for your 22-year-old self to have fun. So, like, don't not have fun.
Yeah. Make all the mistakes.
Yeah. Make some mistakes. Learn through your mistakes.
Yeah.
What would I tell myself? I would probably tell myself, like, I would give myself confidence, I guess. I would give myself confidence that, like, you can do it. You can do it. Not everybody is, you know, Mark Zuckerberg or, you know, these, like, super brainiac people. There's tons and tons and tons and tons of entrepreneurs that are average people, right? And the only reason they were able to build something and be successful on their own is because they just went for it. They tried it. They did something. And they put their brain power towards it. They had to be smart, obviously, but a lot of it is like taking the step to actually do it, right? And so that's what I tell myself. Like, I feel like I started too late, honestly, you know?
Interesting.
But yeah.
Well, Shiv, thank you so much for joining me. This was an awesome conversation.
Thanks for having me, Lauren.